I have an insight into a world of social media that I believe not many people are aware of, and just how fake it all is. I have a whole career built around social media. What I'm doing scares the absolute fuck out of me. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what's gonna happen next. I had the dream life.
In the last few weeks, a bunch of separate articles and videos have popped up discussing the reasons why social media stars are so, well, sad. And I recommend all of them, but it got me thinking, isn't everyone using social media sad? What's up with that? In my last video, we talked about YouTube personalities, why they came to be and the inevitable fall of them. There were some good comments on that video and some really stupid ones, but even the stupid ones were insightful in their own unself-aware kind of way. That video was more about why audiences become disinterested in the old vlogging styles, but today I want to talk about an internal problem. What's wrong with YouTube? And more importantly, is social media actually a horrifying cesspit of evil that sucks every inch of joy out of people's lives like an engagement-hungry leech that will stop at nothing to feed its ego without any regard for the human husks of skin it leaves in its wake? To put it simply, why is everyone using social media so miserable? It's supposed to be fun, a way to connect and share. That's the point of it, and yet, for some people, it's causing more damage than good. I suppose you could call this video a part 2, but I hate part 2s. So, the first video clip you saw at the start is from Senna O'Neill's 2015 video titled "Why I Really Am Quitting Social Media," wherein she denounces social media as fake, declaring her abandonment of all her public online platforms. This video came out around the same time as the ghostwriting book scandals of another famous online star, and it was the first real spread of this moral panic surrounding how people viewed vloggers and how they in turn viewed themselves. O'Neill stuck by her words and has not posted on social media since, but her video always left a lasting impact on not only me, but the whole platform. She is utterly miserable in the video and treats the whole thing like a confession, revealing a dark and twisted secret that needs exposing. To anyone looking in, it's clear that creating these false images and the pressures of interacting and providing good content for her audience every day has made her depressed. A lot of the comments tell her she's selfish, that it's a dream job and to quit whining, which is funny in its own right because she's clearly picked a traditional job over her dream social media one, so that argument kind of concludes itself. The point is, she feels her behaviour and her relationship to her viewers is damaging. So to get to how this is affecting the viewers, we need to start with the basics. What about the practices of social media makes people so miserable and stressed? The first thing to look at is immaterial labour, which has been given a fresh, edgy new look in the social media era. In her 2011 piece, Where Were You When the Monster Hit?, Emmanuel Wessels discusses the notion of immaterial labour as a phenomenon that has re-arisen in the post-industrial economy of the 21st century. Immaterial labour in this instance pertains to the unpaid work that media users and participants in the digital economy engage in. Activities that are unpaid yet deemed productive, such as web page design, blog maintenance, or in this case, running a YouTube channel or social media. There is born an imperative through the rise and integration of technology into modern society to always be productive. A quote from Tiziana Terranova positions that postmodern governments do not like the completely unemployed. And it's through the hegemony of productivity that the hobby, as we know it, is effectively dead. No longer are downtime activities practiced with the simple intention of pleasure, but are implicated in the workings of capital. And this type of labour is crucial in the creation of brands, advertising, and other commodity symbols. Advertisers now actively encourage this kind of labour through campaigns that are designed to be participatory. The YouTube vlog persona is a particularly potent example of this kind of labour. The ability to build a large social following is greatly appealing to employers. You have to share what you make, or it's worthless. Which takes us to our first major issue. Everyone growing up with social media is scared they're not doing enough. I haven't posted today. I need to post something today. We all know about FOMO, but we're going to actually break it down here. FOMO is characterized by the desire to stay continually connected with what others are doing, a pervasive apprehension that others might be having rewarding experiences from which one is absent. But that rewarding experience is not just fun. The rewarding experience may be posting art on your Instagram account that will get lots of likes and you can show as part of a portfolio when you apply to art school. You're constantly under pressure to be one-upping everyone with a proof portfolio. It's a pressure to be constantly participating. And the worst part is, this has, of course, become capitalized. Wessell's essay is specifically in reference to Cloverfield's viral marketing campaign, in which viewers were encouraged to search for Easter eggs and hidden pieces of marketing. It was a revolutionary campaign in which the viewer partook in finding and distributing the advertorial content themselves. For many movie fans, the ensuing months disappeared down a rabbit hole of clues, rumours and red herrings about the film known at the time simply as its release date, 1/18/08. Speculation ran rampant on the various message boards, blogspots and live journal pages dedicated to the film. People competed to find the clips and clues, wanting to be the first and the best. They essentially cracked the code of how to get audiences to advertise your content for free, and it worked, because people didn't want to miss out. They wanted to be involved. This is a perfect example of integrating immaterial labour into advertising, and it doesn't end there. With the growth of social media and the online superstar, we've seen this used in new ways. A strong example of this authentic brand integration can be seen in the YouTube brand deal. And many of these brand deal videos are genius ways of getting the viewer to partake in the advertising. The example we're going to use today is a video by a YouTuber you probably all know, Dodie Clark, in which she performs a short song she wrote using entirely Dr. Pepper products. It's fun. You want to watch it. And other YouTubers pertained that this is the only ad they wouldn't skip. She then gives a call to action that encourages people to tell their own stories of the worst thing that could happen to them, using the hashtag WTWTCH. Whilst Clark would have been paid to make the song and participate in the What's the Worst That Could Happen campaign, anyone who then chose to partake in the WTWTCH hashtag is from then on being paid in fun. Yet because of her ability to champion an authentic edge, winking at the lens to specify to the viewer that the brand deal is an in-joke between them, she inspires in the viewer a sense that she is, and they are, simply having fun, consuming the content and producing their own material. Thus the brand and the labour become naturalised. Other examples of this include Snapchat, whose entire brand relied on people using the filters and sharing the effects on social media. The point of the product required sharing. Advertising was part of the experience, whether the user realised it or not. Everything on social media is participatory. And if you're not participating, you feel like you're missing out, and it makes you feel valueless. It's an age-old idea of you must always be productive, and it's only made worse by the internet. So what about people actually making money from social media? Like me. It's the dream job, right? The ones actually getting paid to use social media? They must be having an amazing time. As discussed in my previous video, social media is a way of performing your best self. If you become reliant on social media for money, then this need to constantly be productive is doubled, and your main labour is in keeping up a desired version of yourself, sometimes at great cost. In Gabby Dunn's piece, Get Rich or Die Vlogging, she discusses one of the major problems faced by social media stars, in how their online hobby, be it vlogging, blogging, Instagram, is forced to become their sole job. The disconnect between internet fame and financial security is hard to comprehend for both creators and fans, but it's the crux of many mid-level web personalities' lives. Take moderately successful YouTubers, for example. Rachel Whitehurst, whose beauty and sexuality vlog had amassed a number of subscribers, was forced to quit her job at Starbucks because her fans memorized her schedule. In other words, many famous social media stars are too visible to have real jobs, but too broke not to. It's one of the reasons brand deals become so vital to YouTubers, because they reach a point where they can't do another job. The amount of hours put in becomes that of a regular job, and it's difficult to imagine going back to regular work. That means get rich or die trying. And not only on the internet. With American middle-class jobs shrinking and wages stagnating, lots of us feel like if we don't want to be poor, we have to make millions. These economic patterns began decades ago, and the starving artist versus sellout paradigm has existed since time immemorial. Countless artists, from Van Gogh to Modigliani, never got to enjoy their legacy's fame and fortune. But thankfully, Van Gogh didn't have to shill for Audible.com to piss off fans for his art. The problem is, once it becomes your sole job, brand deals become integral. There are other new ways to combat this. My new Patreon is linked below, for example. But for most social media stars, brand deals remain a necessity unless they can branch out to other things. Even if they sour the experience for the viewer, it's often the main thing that keeps the channel running. This souring can be hugely discouraging for someone who relies on their social media for income, and even more so when their audience outright rejects it. Dunn shows some of the backlash she's received for brand deals, and it's pretty wild. One dismissively chided us, "Gotta get that YouTube money, I guess," with no acknowledgement of the 2 years of free videos we'd released prior. Another told us they hated ads because they had high expectations of us. This brings the problem full circle. In the models of labour we have, they encourage the idea that you must be productive for free. It's a vicious catch-22. You feel the need to have a productive hobby. Your hobby is forced to become your job. At first, this is exciting. It's what you secretly always hoped. The dream. You have to give up your other work and hope your new job hobby will be sufficient. Your audience feels alienated by you profiting from what was supposed to be your hobby. Most social media consumers want the creators to continue making their content, but also expect them to do so for free. It's simply not feasible. Alienation is the key word here. The Encyclopedia of Marxism calls it the process whereby people become foreign to the world they are living in. And this is elaborated on much better than I could ever hope to do so by Philosophy Tube.
Marx identified 4 kinds of alienation that arise under capitalism. The first is the alienation of labourers from the products they make. This occurs when labourers make products that don't fully belong to them. So for instance, you might work in a clothing factory but be unable to afford to wear any of the nice designer clothing that you're making.
In the case of YouTube and social media stars, they are expected to provide content for free a long time before they're ever going to profit from them. This has been the case ever since Google implemented the watch time rule for people being allowed to run ads on their channels. And once they do start profiting via ad money or brand deals, they're often undervalued or underpaid by Google, who takes a 45% cut of all ad money run on any monetized video.
The second type is the alienation of labourers from the act of labouring. This occurs when labourers are coerced or forced or not working on their own terms. They're not working because working is the expression of some need, but because it's a means to getting what they need through attaining wages. It also occurs when they can't decide how the product is sold or applied.
This, of course, is demonstrated in Gabby Dunn's Get Rich or Die vlogging piece. You start having to do it out of necessity. Even with no inspiration, you have to keep creating.
The third is alienation of labourers from other labourers. Marx thought that under capitalism, labourers would be encouraged to seek what benefits them individually, wages, rather than what benefits them mutually, which might be much larger social change.
This is shown most clearly in manufactured YouTube drama, diss tracks, rant videos, and, boxing matches. Basically, everyone is in it for themselves, and anyone can be thrown under the bus in the name of clicks. And it's not just the social media stars doing this, but the regular social media users partake in this as well. This takes us to our last question, and the thing I'm most interested in. How does this affect the people growing up with social media? Moving away from the vloggers and the Instagram models, and going back to those of you that don't get paid to post, those of you stuck in the productivity pressure pool of the internet, people growing up with social media live in a completely different time to a lot of the people who pioneered social media as a job opportunity. And the subject must be approached in light of the individual, and in consideration of a generation of viewers for whom the internet and accompanying technology are a natural part of their reality, not an imposition upon it. A few recent studies have found that this generation are experiencing a higher level of depression and anxiety than any other generation before. One American study found 1 in 5 American children aged 3 through 17, about 15 million, have a diagnosable mental, emotional, or behavioral disorder in a given year. Research shows an increase in major depressive episodes from 8.7% in 2005 to 11.3% in 2014 in adolescents, and from 8.8% to 9.6% in young adults. The increase was larger and only statistically significant in the age range of 12 to 20 years. Online, the desire to be productive feels satiated by interaction. Every click feels like a pat on the back. We can see clearly how this inspires pack mentality in certain scenarios. Content is praised for its clickability, no matter the cost. I talked to some teenagers about their personal concerns online, and their main issue was that they felt pressured to talk, act, and look a certain way because they knew that would get more interaction online. They see the benefits of big social media followings everywhere, and they struggle to reconcile this need to be productive with the idea that getting clicks doesn't actually really mean anything. There's no room anymore for awkward teen years. Every moment of your life must be perfect and must be productive to your future. And where do these ideologies come from? Who puts this thought process in place? Who's in charge of this? Foucault's teachings on governmentality help us understand how methods of power are at play here. The questions put forward are simple. How to govern oneself? How to be governed? By whom should we accept to be governed? And how to be the best possible governor? Previously, power may have been achieved via fear. The subject breaks the rules, the subject is punished. Acts of violence with the ideal principle of a reason or law. Governmentality is now located in the governing of mentalities, shaping the minds of a population via outwardly transparent institutions such as schools, hospitals, prisons, and now, most importantly, social media. It's the users that put these standards in place. You are both the governor and the victim of the governing. And it's through your labor online that these expectations are realized. We can see how immaterial labor has essentially caused the death of the hobby. Everything you do has to be profitable. You can't just play video games, you have to stream them. You can't just draw a picture, you have to post it on your Instagram account. You have to prove the value of your hobby in quantifiable numbers. But it's not just the hobby that's dead. This pressure to conform, it's a direct result of this labor. Social media users, as a collective group, have decided how people have to behave, and if you deviate, you feel like a freak. An MTV Snapchat piece recently said about 2 young YouTubers, "Meet the girls who are ending your awkward teen phase." It was meant to be a punchy title for an article about how these 14-year-olds are showing other 14-year-olds and younger how to be cool via their Instagram and YouTube channels. But there's a painful irony in the title. The idea that you can no longer be forgiven for being an awkward kid. You're not allowed anymore. The parameters have been set and you must be productive all the time or you're failing. It's depressing and puts an amount of pressure on this generation that no one has quite experienced before. At its best, the internet is a place of sharing your ideas and creations, of keeping in touch and finding yourself. But these young people are confronted with a need to conform to certain behaviors, and deep down, they all know that it's manipulative, that someone is benefiting from their online labor and FOMO. Capitalism! That's who's benefiting. Capitalism is pretty much the answer to every question of why bad things happen. So to answer my question, why is everyone using social media so sad? The answer is quite simple. Somewhere along the way, even if you make no money from it, social media becomes work. At its worst, the internet is a place of manipulation, forced expectation, and isolation. And sadly, I think that's what we're living in right now. So I was originally going to end this essay right there, but it didn't feel right. It was like problems without solutions, and I didn't like the idea of leaving people in the dark. So I've been really reluctant to get this essay up until I could find like a happy, cathartic way to end it, and that came to me last night when I was watching the Fred Rogers documentary. Fred Rogers, or Mr. Rogers, also believed that life is hard and it's scary and it's important that we break things down in an empathetic and kind way, which is kind of what I want to do with these essays. But it was one quote in particular that stuck with me when he said,
"I hope that you remember, even when you're feeling blue, that it's you I like, it's you yourself, it's you. It's you I like." And what that ultimately means, of course, is that you don't ever have to do anything sensational for people to love you.
And I realized that's exactly what I was trying to say with this essay, and I don't care how much people cringe at sentimentality, people need to hear that more than ever. There are all these teenagers who are grappling with this need to prove the value of their own life online, and somebody needs to explain that they don't need to do that. There is, in my opinion, just as much value in being kind, having fun, and existing in the world. And if you can learn to live your life without needing to prove anything, then you've become free of all this bullshit. So I'm going to leave you with this nice Mr. Rogers quote, and I hope any of you sad kids out there feeling the burn of social media can take a little comfort in knowing that you are fine just the way you are and you don't need to prove shit to anyone. Thank you.
I like you as you are, exactly and precisely. I think you turned out nicely, and I like you as you are. And children need to hear that. I don't think that anybody can grow unless he really is accepted exactly as he is.
Hello everyone! If you're enjoying my essay videos, please check out my Patreon, linked below, and maybe even become a patron if you want to. No pressure. Thanks for watching, and see ya!